Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors meeting for October 7th. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. The board met an executive session on October 3rd, and before this meeting, to discuss personnel and litigation. Agenda item 4, presentations. Officer citation of commendation for life saving. Chief, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to present citations to two of our officers for an event that they were instrumental in saving someone's life on September 27th. So I have Officer Bryce O'Connor and Officer Daniel Sachs. If you could come up here, please. Trying to not have our backs to everybody. So where we go? Yeah, just stay right there. So whereas on September 27th, 2024, Officer Bryce O'Connor and Officer Daniel Sachs acted swiftly to save the life of the subject suffering from self-inflicted wounds. Whereas Officer Bryce O'Connor responded to the area of Peace Valley Park for the report of a suicidal subject who had reportedly cut himself. Upon arrival, Officer O'Connor immediately began searching the wooded area where the subject was believed to be, locating the subject unresponsive and covered in blood, approximately a quarter mile into the woods. Officer O'Connor assessed the subject's injuries and applied the tourniquet to the subject's arm to control the bleeding. Officer Daniel Sachs arrived and applied pressure to a puncture wound on the subject's neck while assisting Officer O'Connor in carrying the subject uphill through the woods back to a paved trail to awaiting paramedics. Whereas if not for their quick response, teamwork, and care for the preservation of life, the subject would have bled to death. These officers were able to use their training, experience, and don't quit attitude to stop the subject's bleeding and quickly get him to medical care. Therefore, be it further resolved that Officers O'Connor and Sachs be recognized and presented this citation of commendation for life saving for their outstanding actions in the performance of their duties as members of the New Britain Township Police Department. Presented this 7th day of October 2024 by myself, Township Manager, and New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. Give a round of applause. Both? Yes, both.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Get back to work. No.
Moving on to agenda item 4, proposed easement and enhancement on Milford Drive. Did you like to come up? Yes, please. Please come to the table and join us. Please state your name and presentation.
Okay, so Kathleen Davis, 32 Clearview. And even though I'm an EAC chair, by the way, that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Goosebumps kind of stuff. Even though I'm the EAC chair, and I'm going to kind of introduce, this is not really an EAC project, although we are fully endorsing it and would love to help out with things like this in the future. I'm here because I kind of facilitated it here to you. I met Sally Kawati when I was at her house as a tree tender, checking up on some trees that the PHS tree tenders had planted the fall before. And we always do a checkup in the summer, following summer. And they have an easement in the back and they said, can we do anything? And I said, well, I'll see what I can find out. And I got the contract and I sent it to Sally and I introduced Sally to Karen. And you already know Karen, the watershed specialist at Bucks County Conservation District. So Sally is first going to just explain what they have in mind. And Karen can follow.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Sally Calvati. We are a resident of 304 Millridge Drive. That's the community of Curly Mills. We've been living in New Britain for 10 years. 2 years ago, when they were building this community, we bought our first house here. And we have an HOA, it's 12 homeowners, small community. We have about 2.5 acre of easement in the backyard, and we would love to plant some native trees and shrubs, mainly for water management and environmental benefits. So with consideration of our HOA, we would like to take on this project, and I appreciate your consideration. I've looked into the costing to make sure that we can maintain it. So it's gonna be a collaboration between us in terms of cost and HOA, mowing the around the trees, watering them. I've already talked to landscapers, costing out how much it's gonna cost us for the trees to at least for the first 2-3 years until they grow and they get established. So I have worked that all out and ready to discuss that. We have a meeting with our HOA 17th. It's coming up, so I make that proposal to them and pending their approval, we would love to take on this project.
So then that's kind of my part. So once she gets HOA approval, and if the board agrees that this is a sanctioned use of conservation easement, or, you know, that the activities are okay, you know, we have the go ahead HOA view. We would build a application to a grant program that the district facilitates. It's called Trees for Watersheds. And essentially it would let you have to, so for Trees for Watersheds, you have, for a private landowner, it must be on permanently protected land, which is an easement. You need to have either a nonprofit sponsor the project or local government. We think we'll be able to find a nonprofit organization to work it. If not, you know, hopefully there's some way the district can get involved. I facilitate these grants for other townships, and there are ways we can work it. It's an easy reimbursement grant project. So essentially someone, like nonprofit township, would buy the trees and the protection and get reimbursed 75%. It requires a 25% match, which we believe that between the HOA and the volunteers in the community who like to plant trees, we know they're out there, but we can actually get the job done. So yeah, the reason I'm here tonight is, you know, first to make you aware of this grant. And I want you to understand that other municipalities, I was at a tree planting in a basin in Warrington a couple weeks ago. Reimbursable grant, you get trees in your basin, you've naturalized it, you can get MS4 credit. So I wanted to introduce that grant to you, make sure you know it was out there. But I really like that an HOA would take a step to do beneficial conservation work on your easements. I mean, after all, it's a conservation easement. It's not preservation. If you preserve land in Bucks County, it kind of gets overrun by invasives and deer and doesn't really function like it could if you have somebody managing it. So this is kind of a unique opportunity, and I'll go a step further and suggest that maybe you tweak your conservation easement language to specifically say that planting of native trees and shrubs, controlling invasive species is a sanctioned use of an easement. And here are people to contact for support or help. And it's something for your consideration for future as we look down the road, is that what's coming when it comes to water management. That's kind of what we had to say.
So, oh, and the date.
The date, oh yes, the grant application. I need to have the application, at least in my desk. It's kind of in my head. That would be easy to put together. The 31st is the deadline for grant application, which is why we're here tonight, next month.
Okay, so Scott or Craig, would you, either of you like to talk about the conservation easement and?
Yeah, I have some questions. First of all, based on the subdivision plan, based on the exhibits you presented, doesn't match up with the subdivision plan. It looks like it's on lots 10 and 11.
Correct,
You're representing both?
yes.
So you have the permission of the adjacent
Yes.
homeowner.
They couldn't make it tonight, and we have more lands on our side, if you look at it, I believe.
Okay, so I'm not sure, I didn't know that originally until I got the exhibit, so there's actually two properties. You can see it on the one exhibit, there's a light yellow line. Okay, that answers that one. Most of the time, and I deal with these before there was an EAC, the zoning officer, whoever it may be at the time, we're always catching people instead of someone coming in and saying, hey, I'd like to do that. So the problem is the more language we change, people say, well, I thought it was, and it's a lot of, we rather, in my opinion, have this done than what happens is you're too loose on the language, then they interpret it and they be guilty. We have a lot of that, and we've had it up here 25 years, but we're getting more and more people coming in to present, and I'd like to do it on a case by case. The conservation agreement just says you must do board approval to do anything else, so I think the mechanisms are there. The only issue I have over the years, it's just more of, and things have changed, so I'm just going to give you a little history, is people have asked to do raised gardens with mulch paths. They've asked to, as long as it's not a structure, they feel it's okay. I don't have any issue with any of it other than the mulch trail part. We've always stayed away, in my opinion only, but in past people have started pushing on, look, what's mulch trails, turns into a mulch play area, turns into, still non-impervious, and they play, unfortunately, this is the zoning part of it.
Yeah.
Is they keep pushing it, so, I'm okay with everything else. In fact, I looked at first and thought maybe you're gonna do some reforestation. In the back, you have two pieces of nice, I think it's secondary growth, but, maybe some forestation in the back instead of just what you're proposing to do. But Scott and I feel like it, and Scott can speak for himself, but it's crossing from passive to more active when people are, if it's not just the property owner, I mean, they can walk wherever they want, it's their property, but creating paths and having access and then putting down the mulch, I think is where I have an issue with it. But outside of that, I think it's wonderful. The approved plans do say it's supposed to be left in its natural state. So you approved the plans, the conditions of approval for this, regardless of the ordinance. It was recorded that it shall be all left in its natural state or its lawn. Then the agreements and the exhibits say it must be left in its natural state. So that would be something you need to, basically, I think Scott would have you just amend the agreement that would cover all of it, if you so choose to go in that path. So I think I touched on, answer my questions.
Yeah, no, but that was like the first thing Craig brought up was my biggest thing is just the idea, just making sure with it being on two lots, both property owners are in agreement, we would just have to modify the conservation easement. And yeah, the idea of, the conservation easement versus open recreational space kind of coming into play here. The less disturbance, the better, just from a standpoint of A, keeping the conservation, but also B, from a legal standpoint, I mean, you start putting in trails along this, this is your property. You are then, you are not a public entity, you're not a park, you don't have the same protections we do if someone were to trip and fall out there versus on your private property. So those are just concerns that I would have in putting anything that looks like it's intended to be walk on. Not that you can't do it, just the idea of the invitee aspect to it, so.
And I heard you already mention, so I was okay with it, but just for the board's edification, in the past, we've always required the HOA to pass or approve it, as we put in writing to the township. Can't have a condition being the HOA may take care of, may not, so if you approve anything would be subject, you should have your HOA approval before. I don't know how that fits in with your grant deadline, but we'll discuss that, coordinate that with the township, but we typically have HOA approval. They have best, I don't know how it's gonna be paid for as far as the maintenance, and that's up to them to decide, but as long as the HOA approves it, township's really not involved at that point. So, as long as they're okay with maintaining it, they'll approve everything. I mean, we'll be there. Now you have an EAC. I won't probably get as many calls and on certain things, but we're there to assist if it moves forward that way.
Who maintains, who owns it now?
So it would be the homeowners, us and the lot besides.
Okay, so the HOA is not currently mowing it.
They are. So the meadow is supposed to be mowed twice a year based on the guidelines that we have. So they come out, they mow it, and I believe the two pictures that you have on file, it's the day that they mowed it.
Coincidentally, we thought we were going to see it in its growing state and it came with.
Okay. So it's just whatever grows there and you're proposing, I thought your proposal did include trees.
Yes, yeah.
Lots of trees.
Okay, okay, excuse me, the company wasn't gonna be,
The original,
The original,
well, the original easements, that's what the correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
the native shrubs and trees.
in the park, this is where did you reference that they're allowed to mow it? And it doesn't really matter if gets approved, but it says it's supposed to be left in its natural state. This is the other thing we've added. People mow, then they mow twice a year, then they mow every quarter. Next time there's lawn and we get this turf grass that used to be its natural state 10, 15 years. It says it's supposed to be left in its natural condition.
Might be a question for the HOA.
You said the HOA mowed
It
it?
is in our guidelines, yes. They get.
See, that's right, and this is a really good exercise for, it's in their guidelines and their HOA documents, but it violates your conservation easement agreement. And this is where an enforcement nightmare with the zoning office and our office, every easement on every property, it's really hard to.
Don't we have something in our development plans that the HOA documents are supposed to be included by the township?
It would have been, yes. They
So,
would have been reviewed by.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, that's such a minor little thing, I don't think I don't see them. I don't see how any attorney would even catch something like that. Regardless, I'm just showing you how simplest little things it turns into grass. And supposed to be left in its natural state, so
It was
this is something that'd be more maintained and we're aware of it. Maybe it's a good pilot program for others.
down to saying, to having trails through this area, preferred to have grass, that's.
I would just say they can mow it any way they want, once it's approved, that's what we're doing now. And if there's a little paths, that's fine, but I would not call it a trail and I would not.
It's gone, right, you don't maintain it, people. in the backyard, yeah.
Yeah.
And often, it's that one, do, yeah.
Yeah,
You're just
so-
knowing it's.
Yeah,
And this had been a farm, as you probably know, so. It basically was just grasses of various sorts, which would turn into woods if left unattended, they no longer.
Right,
That's the species in that.
yeah, I
good species, that's good. Great, Springs now?
I wish you luck with homeowners association. Sometimes they're not always agreeable to public, make so much sense.
So since this is just a presentation, we'll take it on and have a look at it and hopefully we'll have an answer for you at our next meeting.
do you
In time for your grant.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Do you, go ahead. Will you have more detail, like what your actual, so like we can document what the plantings are, where they're at and.
They had a condition of.
Well, but yeah, I would like to, maybe you should see that. Anybody else is coming in, you have seen that before, so.
Planting plan, like what
Yeah.
trees are going
Yeah,
where.
I mean, this isn't the first time, this is more in depth, but we've had some type of, concept plan with a little more detail on it.
Available at the nurseries when we have money to order them. But sometimes that's what it comes
You
down
can show areas and
I think he's more concerned about areas.
areas and
general.
quantities and species to be determined. I mean, you can give a list of
And
Well, it needs to be something more of what you're gonna do, because honestly, we proved a bunch where we modified it and made them come with a planning schedule. I had to review it, sign off on it. This was a little bit more informal, but.
But
You
so
can get it all
there's
done.
gonna be one tree and 15 different bushes around there. To the plan.
Or 21st.
21st, but we need it.
Would you like from the HOA a letter saying the cost that they're going to, yes, cover? Like,
I'm not worried about cost. I'm not-
More worried about just the.
Their
permission.
their permission, they need their permission, and then just some type of concept. I mean, you want to give it to the township or just send it to me and I can help. And it's not just enough to quantify where you're doing and what areas, because not everybody's always going to agree.
Right.
Like, you may have one neighbor, they say, but one of the other neighbors may not. That's what I-
I think we would need to be able to hear from the other homeowners as well. If they don't give official permission.
They can't be here meeting.
Saying that you get all that for next meeting, then you could just approve it.
Yeah.
Then you know.
The only thing for our next meeting, we need the information at the latest by next Wednesday. Or Thursday morning at the absolute latest.
Wednesday, not the Wednesday before.
That is the Wednesday before the meeting.
If you can get as much as, so if you can get as much of that as you can, obviously the HOA meeting will be after that.
When's the HOA meeting?
Thursday. But if we have enough of it that they have in their packet, if there's.
Right. Then we can just supplement it, but we have to post it. Yeah.
What do you need for the grant? Something in writing from them, from the board? Or?
Anyway, the actual.
I saw enough 9 of the heads to know that, you know, there'll be some form of to move forward. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead. I wouldn't want to go ahead and grant. Yeah.
With salary and be ready.
And then we can find food
Together.
together. So.
And they're pretty forgiving because they count the districts to make these grants.
Yeah. Okay. Let me know.
Anything else from the board? No. Anything else from staff? No. Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank
presentation.
you, thank you, thank
Good
you.
luck.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5, motion to consider consent agenda. Consent agenda A, approved minutes of September 17th, 2024 budget workshop #1 meeting. B, approved minutes of September 23rd, 2024 board of supervisors meeting. C, approved regular bills list as follows: October 2nd, 2024 in the amount of $60,988.65. D, approved prepaid bills list as follows: September 26th, 2024 in the amount of $8,381.53, and October 2nd in the amount of $19,958.57. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Bill, do I have a second? Mary Beth, is there any questions or concerns from this board? No? Any from the public? No? I call the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Agenda item 6, action item. A, consider a motion to accept and approve resignation of Renee Stestel, that's it, from Park and Recreation Commission. I was gonna say, Bill makes a motion. I'll second. Mary Beth will second. Dan?
Yes, there's a vacancy now. We have posted it, and once you accept it, we have posted it. We have not gotten any interest to date, but it's out there, so.
Thank you. Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Information items, engineers report.
The only update I have from my last engineer's report, was we have planning commission. I think it was only second meeting of the year. I think I already updated the board. There was a 4-lot subdivision on Berry Road. That went quite well. I think a couple residents were there. They were sort of stormwater management, not the neighbors that are right adjacent to it, but dialogue went well. And then the car wash that's proposed, a sketch plan only car wash at the old Wawa site at County Line and Butler Avenue. They came with a couple different renderings. I'd given them some feedback, did a review, and they agreed the original layout was not acceptable with all the variances needed, so they were trying to come up with a more by right compliant plan. I think the planning commission gave them some recommendations, and I anticipate the plans being cleaned up, and probably next step will be in front of you for presentation. That's all I have.
Thank you. Board of Super, Dan? Is there anything for?
No, just that we did receive our 2023 audit and it will be posted on the website and available for public inspection.
From the actual,
Oh,
okay. So, just, it did an analysis of the general fund. Can we start looking at that and see if we can take that into consideration when we're doing our budget for this year? It had, it compared between 2022 and 2023, and revenues and expenses increased significantly from 22 to 23. So, could we take that piece of information as well?
yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Scott, is there anything from the solicitor you would like to add?
Sure. As Craig's been talking about for months now, been doing the zoning ordinance updates. I have everything from Janine. I'm putting it all together, so you'll have that either early next week or possibly the end of this week. So for you to review, and we can consider advertisement at our next meeting.
Okay, board of supervisor comment. I'll start with Bridget.
My only comment is that we are currently serving as a drop point for select donations. There's a list on the Facebook page, some on the website too, or just Facebook page. I don't want to see.
I think it's just on the Facebook page.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a list. Then
Yeah, it's still posted. I just don't know what she did.
Supervisor McCabe and the public works person, depending on how much we have, we'll be delivering it to the people who will be transporting it down to North Carolina. So thank you to everybody that has donated so far and will donate. And yeah, that's it.
It is on your Facebook, it is on the website.
It was on our
Yeah,
website.
Just add to that, thank you to the community who have dropped things off and who are going to drop things off. It's quite devastated in North Carolina, and Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. And people really need help. Thank you.
Bill? Stephanie?
Just to say thank you to our police department. We've had quite a lot recently come from the department to be proud of. So thank you for everything you're doing, Chief, your leadership down there. Thank you to all of the officers.
Yes, thank you, Chief, and all the support staff. We've had very busy with events and more events that you have been working very hard for the whole time, making sure that everyone is safe and getting to enjoy the activities that they would like to go see. Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any comment from the public? No, sir. Announcements. Our next budget workshop meeting, number 2, will be next Tuesday on the 15th at 8:30 a.m. We will then have our Park and Recreation Commission meeting on also October 15th at 7 p.m. The Veterans Committee meeting will be Wednesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. And then the Zoning Hearing Board meeting will be Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m. Ooh. Chief, is there anything you would like to add today?
No, I don't believe so. There is a trunk or treat coming up on October 25th at New Seasons from 5:30 to 7:30. That's our next event. We did have coffee with the cop this past Friday at Bagel Barn. It was very well received. So yeah, we're moving along.
You want?
Bridget, do I have a second?
Second, our next meeting will be on Monday. Say on.
Good night, everyone, and thank you.